Hello. Welcome to DeKalb Talks Tourism. Our special guest today for this show is Erin Stieglitz. Get it right?
That's right.
All right. Erin is with the Bagel Rescue, so that automatically gets my attention.
Mhm.
But Erin, tell us a little bit about yourself before we get into the Bagel Rescue part of you.
Sure. First, thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be here. So, I have been in Atlanta for about 25 years now. I graduated from Emory University
Oh, okay.
with a degree in journalism, and I've lived here ever since. I worked for Turner Broadcasting. I've had my own communications company, and now I am a bagel rescuer.
Wow. So before we get to that still, did you come here for Emory?
I did. I
So where were you before?
I grew up in the Carolinas, Greenville, South Carolina,
Okay.
and Charlotte, North Carolina.
Pretty cool areas.
Yes, yes,
Charlotte's specifically up and growing, up and
yes,
coming.
yes. Both cities have changed so much since I grew up there.
So how do you like the big Atlanta though from coming from Charlotte?
I love it. I was so happy to get to experience it as an Emory student, and then I knew I wanted to stay after I graduated.
Well,
And then I met
great.
my husband, and we have two kids. We live in DeKalb County in Brookhaven.
All right. Well, we love you live in DeKalb.
Yes.
That's perfect. So tell us about Bagel Rescue because I love bagels. So I think rescue them's a good idea.
Yes. So, Bagel Rescue is a nonprofit hunger relief food rescue, primarily for bagels, also baked goods, breads, and pastries.
Ah,
So, we rescue the unsold items from bagel shops and bakeries, and we donate them to feeding programs like shelters, food pantries, youth programs, senior apartments, street outreach efforts, and more. So, we are a responsible solution for bagel shops and bakeries to donate their excess food so we can put it to good use. And we do that by helping neighbors in need.
yeah. Because the worst thing is you have all this beautiful product and it's not really good to sell the following day because everybody wants it freshly made, which makes sense. But it's edible for days, and if you
Exactly.
can feed people and help people and all, it's a great way for those restaurants to really give back, to be more sustainable, um, and just yeah, what are they going to do with them? So I mean, it's a great program.
Yes, you nailed it. So all of these bagel shops and bakeries work off the model of selling you a freshly made product. And, the bagel that you can buy at 159 is the same as the bagel that they would have discarded at 201.
Yeah.
So we are just making sure that we can help those who are struggling by providing this really good food resource.
So I got two questions. One of them is, how do you make this profitable? I mean, are you a nonprofit or are you a profit making company?
We are a nonprofit. So while we have expenses, and we have to fundraise to remain sustainable, we, are a nonprofit. All of our food is donated in kind from our very generous bagel shops and bakeries. And then we primarily work with volunteers who are the driving force, the heartbeat of our operation, making sure that the food gets from point A to somebody's belly.
So that is really amazing. I mean, we've got look at all these people that you have for volunteers or like the whole van or carload and big operation. I would have not realized it's this big of an operation as you kind of stroll through these pictures. So looks like Emerald City Bagels, uh, Henri's, Goldberg's, Einstein's, um, Dunkin' Donuts, General Muir, one of the Michelin places, Soho. So you got really some awesome places because, like in Goldberg, we have at least two places in DeKalb.
We have
Einstein's, we have several.
Yes, yes. So we're so fortunate to work with all of these bagel shops and bakeries. There's five Goldbergs that we work with. We work with 14 Einstein's Brothers bagels,
Bet.
about 7 different Panera, 3 Bagel Boys. There's 2 101 Bagel Cafes. We have really cornered the market on bagel shops for rescuing.
So you got almost like the directory of bagel places right here.
We do. And then once we tapped out bagel shops, we moved on to more traditional bakeries like Alon's and Henri's and the General Muir, because they also have baked goods and delicious breads that would have to be discarded.
True. Well, I know we were talking before the show started. I actually knew a little bit about you all because of the 101 Bagel Cafe over in Cobb County up in the Marietta area. There's an emergency dental place. Great if you ever have problems. We had to go there actually a couple different times. So I was talking to the owner, and all of a sudden he's the owner of the dentistry place. But we started talking about the bagel place next door, and he explained how the bagels were picked up by you all. So it was very interesting that I never expected to meet you and talk with you, but I knew your story just from that one incident.
Yes, I love that connection. I have people tell me all the time that they see our sticker up in a bagel shop. We are in 50 different bagel shops and bakeries, and we donate in 9 counties of Metro Atlanta.
Wow.
Yes, so we are collecting 15 to 18,000 baked goods a week, and we deliver to over 120 different partner agencies.
Wow. So the natural question is you were in journalism, communication, some of these big companies. How did you get to picking up bagels?
Yes, well, it just sort of fell in my lap. So it was the holiday season of 2020. We were, in the middle of the pandemic, and my family, like many families, we like to do a service project over the holidays. And we couldn't do what we would normally do, go into a shelter and make and serve a meal. So I said, let's do something for frontline workers who are taking care of COVID patients in hospitals. They're, it's pre-vaccine, they're risking their lives,
Yeah.
taking care of others. And so I called Northside Hospital right down the street from me. And I said, what can we do for you? And they said, oh gosh, we are still in the weeds. People were loving on us in April, and here we are. It's close to December, and we could really use a morale boost. So, could you bring in breakfast for our staff? And I was like, absolutely, we can do this. So, I went back to my family. I have 2 sons, my husband. I said, we're going to do a breakfast for Northside Hospital. We'll buy some bulk bagels and spreads and OJ, and we'll make some cards, and we'll bring it to the hospital. And my son, who was 9 at the time, said, well, why would we buy bulk bagels? We really like bagels from the bagel shop down the street, which happens to be Goldberg's. And so I was like, well, I'm going to tell him all the reasons why that doesn't make sense, wouldn't be cost effective. And
Mm.
we, need to get this together in advance and whatever. And he said, well, let's just tell them what we're doing and see if they want to help us. And so he called the manager. And he told the manager what we were doing, and the manager agreed to give us the bagels from the day before. So we set up the date.
Ah.
We arrive, hundreds of leftover bagels. I couldn't believe it. And so we brought it to the hospital, and they were super grateful. And that could have been the end of it. But having seen this trunk full of bagels that would have been thrown away, it was nagging at me.
Mm.
And so I called the manager back that week. And I said, do you always have this amount of waste? And he said, yeah. And I said, could I just take bagels to the hospital once a week? I think they'd appreciate it. And he was like, yeah, let's do that. And so I did that for a while. And then I started thinking, I passed by a bunch of other bagel shops. What are they doing with their waste?
Mm-hmm.
And so I just started making calls, and a friend of mine was helping me do this. And we discovered that all of these bagel shops have the waste. They just didn't have the bandwidth to deal with it at the end of their workday.
Right.
And so I said, well, we can be the connection. We're living in a pandemic. People are losing their jobs and their homes, and kids aren't going to school to get free food. And, we can do something good with this food. And so just started, just small potatoes, making connections between bagel shops and different programs that could use it. So that's how we got started. But then how we really grew was that people started finding out what I was doing. And so when somebody would come to me from Snellville or Tequila or Austell or South Atlanta who wanted to help, I wouldn't say no, like you don't live in my area and I don't have something for you to do. I would
Right.
just call another bakery or bagel shop and I would say, hey, do you want to be part of our program? Do you want to donate your food? We'll make it easy for you. And then I would call some more feeding programs and I would just kept building connections all through volunteer support. And here we are with 50 bakery donors and over 150 volunteers that help us move this food. We have rescued 2 million bagels and baked goods.
So do you all deal with any like the QTs and all with all the baked goods they have coming in?
We have not. We have not gotten into convenience stores
I'm just wondering
or
because they discount them and probably sell them at the discount before they. So I don't. That's curious if they throw away a lot or not.
I'm not sure about that. I do praise any restaurant that makes their food available at a discount or, it finds a good use for their food instead of throwing it
Yeah,
away.
yeah. Well, it's like you go to these buffets so many times, or like the hotels with the buffets, and they're like they can't reuse the food, obviously. So where does it go?
Unfortunately, it usually goes in the trash.
Yeah.
Yes.
How do you
So
get around? Oh, sorry.
no, go ahead.
How do you get around? Because I know a lot of times in the past, at least when I was in the hotel business, there was the issue of taking it from here to having it to giving it to the person to when it's actually sold. The people don't get sick, or they get sick. They think it's from that, even though it probably wasn't. How do you get around all that with bagels and how you do it?
Sure. So, first, there's Good Samaritan laws that help restaurants feel comfortable donating their food. So, as long as they're donating in good faith, the knowing that the food is good, not
Mm-hmm.
spoiled, then they're protected from somebody, getting sick or choking or whatever it may be. But we're moving the food really quickly. Sometimes it's same day. Most often it's same day. So we're picking up in the afternoon and we're bringing it directly to the program that might be serving it that day or the next morning, or might be storing it themselves. Sometimes we pick up the following morning and same thing. It's just going straight to the feeding program so that it can be used. We also have 10 regional freezers where we store
Wow.
bagels so that if we can't move it quickly enough, we are keeping it safe. And that also helps us be more efficient with our distributions, so that, we can take a bunch of bagels at one time and make multiple deliveries. Or some of our programs need over 1,000 bagels just for
Jeez.
one distribution. So we're able to do that because we've collected in our freezers.
Now, do you ever work with? I know this county, at least during COVID. I'm not sure after that, but it seems like during school, when there's the breaks with schools. Have you ever worked with counties where they're doing food run, not food runs where you come through and get food, like you're not in school, so your free meal might not be there, but you have the opportunity so you can get it. Do you ever work with counties on things like that?
Yes. So we have actually just started working with DeKalb County on their mass food distributions, for those very situations. They usually see 200 plus families in those drive throughs.
Okay.
So, yes, we're working directly with DeKalb County on that. And then some other school districts, it's not directly through the schools themselves, but a counselor might organize
Okay.
it or an outside group organizes it for the students.
We know the CEO elect is next door.
Oh,
You can hear her talking right now, so I know she's in there.
well, I would love an introduction.
So, yeah, she's great. It's going to be a phenomenal year starting out. We're excited. I mean, CEO Thurman's been wonderful, but he's retiring, so we have new person coming in with Lorraine, and she's going to be unbelievable.
Wonderful.
So, what do you think is the future of Bagel Rescue? Where do you want to go next? All of Georgia?
I really would love to expand to other cities. This is a replicable model. This works.
True.
We've proven that it works. And so I would love to take Bagel Rescue to other cities. I think I would do it differently, managing 50 bakeries and 150 volunteers and 120 plus, feeding programs is a lot. But I think that it can be done in pods where
Right.
it's a couple of bakeries with, managed by a few volunteers and then they distribute to a few feeding programs. Um, and so I would love to take it to other cities. I that is my long-term goal for Bagel Rescue. Um, we're still just smoothing things out in Atlanta, and then I think I would like to take that plunge.
So, if you think about what you just now said, so Atlanta itself dwarfs everybody. So, you're not going to have as many bagel places or deliveries in all these other cities. But you're really doing metro Atlanta. So, take the giant city out. How many of the smaller cities, like you're in DeKalb, all through DeKalb? So, I mean, you're in Cobb. So, DeKalb is probably what, bigger than the second biggest city if you throw the county size in?
Yes,
So, yeah, really, you would think taking it to a big city, but not Atlanta or Metro, would be very containable.
it would be manageable. You're right. I hadn't thought about it that way. Yes, that would be very manageable. And then, it doesn't have to just be in Georgia. We can
No.
go to Charlotte, where they probably do have quite a few bagel shops and bakeries, but we can break it down, right? We can make it manageable for a volunteer team to take it on.
Have y'all done any research to see if there's someone else in the country doing this?
So I have not found that anyone is doing it on a large scale like we are. I know that there are organizations, even before Bagel Rescue came along, that would, pop into a bagel shop and say, hey, we're doing this, for our church or, whatever it may be, our food pantry. Can we have your access? So that was happening, but not on this like massive scale and like routine basis like we are.
Yeah, because you would think you've got two huge hot buttons right now with reducing food waste or the recycling, they know that part, besides the fact that it's reducing food waste, besides the fact that you're supporting hunger relief. I mean, when you have three hot buttons, you would think you could really take this and get national funding for this. It's so intriguing now when you start looking at your hot buttons that you're doing, the good you're doing, that you could do this everywhere. And you think you would have big donors coming in. It'll be interesting to see. So now let's go. If you're listening to this show, you're watching this show, and you want to help, or say you're in, because this show goes everywhere. So you could be in Columbus or Augusta or Macon or wherever, and you want to do this with you. You want to help you do a Bagel Rescue Columbus, Georgia. How do how do they find you?
So bagelrescue.com is our website, and bagelrescueteam@gmail.com is our email. And I am the one that responds to all emails. So I would love for anybody who is looking to be a captain in their area to reach out and let me know, and we can get this started together. I love collaborating. And so I really would love to have someone local, but also help get this off the ground together under the umbrella of Bagel Rescue. If you're already in Metro Atlanta, we're always looking for volunteers. Being in 9 counties means we need people
Right.
everywhere. And we have wonderful volunteers that pretty much take on a weekly commitment, but we often need substitutes. And we are also, when we have more volunteers, we're able to explore more food resource opportunities. So reach out to me if you are interested. And then, of course, we do workshops also with businesses and community groups, schools, where we push in with thousands of bagels and everybody can learn about all of the issues of food waste, food insecurity, food justice. And then we package up bagels, which really helps our partners when we can bring it to them already packaged in, like, say, a family pack, rather than the way we have to deliver now, which is usually in bulk.
So, have you reached out to the Georgia Restaurant Association back a year ago, Karen Bremer, or the new director now?
No, I haven't.
It seemed like, I mean, I can't speak for them, but I mean, they deal with restaurants. So, and I know reducing food waste and supporting the hunger, I believe it's part of what they're interested in. So, you might want to reach out to the Georgia Restaurant Association. I have not met their new director yet. But if it's something interesting, Karen Bremer, the past director, is on our board of directors. So she's
Wonderful.
still very involved with restaurants and things like that. Because you got the Georgia Restaurant Association, you got the National Restaurant Association. You probably, I don't know this one, but you probably have a regional Southern like restaurant association. But I know there are those different hierarchies that you can get into. Like you probably don't deal with hotels yet because that's a little different, but
Yes. And so as of now, we've selected to stay pretty much with breads because
mm,
they're semi-perishable, right? They're transportable. So
right,
the average person can throw it in their trunk and move it from place to place.
right.
Um, with we do have our freezers to store, but we do that just when we need to hold on to them longer. We have not gotten into highly perishable foods at this point, but I am open to lots of possibilities.
Well, I was even thinking like the hotels that provide the continental breakfast with the
Uh
pastries
huh.
and
It's true.
bagels and the English muffins, but the, I don't know what their waste is on a daily basis. So,
Yeah. No, that's a really good point. I wanted to go back to something you said about all of the issues that are involved in Bagel Rescue. Um, I really see it as four kind of buckets, four different causes that are intertwined that we represent. The first is the food waste and making sure all the energy that goes into making these delicious foods isn't wasted, right? From farm to transport to
right, right.
bakery, um, because somebody will actually get to eat it, right? And then there's the issue of when food gets buried in landfills, it releases methane gas, which contributes to global warming
Didn't
and
even think
climate
about that
change.
part.
Yes. So, what I like to say is instead of filling landfills, we're filling bellies, right? The obvious connection is to repurpose this food so that we can feed our neighbors in need. 1 in 9 people in Georgia suffer from food insecurity, 1 in 7 when it comes to children.
Oh, wow.
So, we're not going to solve that problem with bagels, but we can bring in this food resource and other people can bring in their resources. And then collectively, we're going to chip away and make a big dent in the problem. There's also food justice, which is a component of social justice, right? We know that marginalized and underserved communities are more likely to experience food insecurity. So we're pushing into the areas of greatest need to support people who might live in food deserts, right? There's no grocery store nearby. And so they're getting food at the corner store, right? Which is probably a soda and some chips. But we can be a more nutritious food resource in these pockets of town. Food is a basic need, a human
Right,
right,
right.
right? And nobody can meet their potential without it. So we're helping people thrive. And then the fourth piece of this, which is one that to me is so joyous and I didn't even realize was going to be created with Bagel Rescue, is community, right? It's neighbors helping neighbors.
Yeah.
And we try to keep things hyper local so that it's efficient and it's easy for people to volunteer. And also, our bagel shops and bakeries love knowing that they're supporting their immediate community.
Very cool point too. I mean, you're doing that, but I wasn't picking up on that aspect of it. The community goodwill that you're providing the restaurants, you're an organization, but then the good feeling that the person has for helping.
Exactly. Yes. I mean, these are really serious issues, food insecurity and climate change and poverty and homelessness. But when you can take action, right, when you can be solution oriented, then you can infuse joy into the situation, right? You can
Mm,
feel like you are actually making an impact.
definitely. And you've got, not to use the word sustainable, but you got a sustainable product that's only going to probably get bigger. Unfortunately, on both sides, the need for it that you're helping to cut down, but the need's still there. But then the actual product is going to get bigger because you're going to have more restaurants.
Right. Yes.
So I congratulate you. I think this is phenomenal.
Thank you.
I mean, it is something really worthwhile. It would be interesting to see if you get calls from other areas wanting to say, hey, how can we help? How can we volunteer? How can we start? Or other cities. It'd be very interesting to see if you do get any calls about that.
Yes. Well, I'll be checking my email. I'll be ready.
Well, before we close, anything you want to talk about that we missed, or any great story you got to close with, or
I would say I feel like I have so many stories of how something as small as a bagel have impacted somebody's day. And as much as, I'm very proud of our benchmarks to, stats on, how many bagels we've rescued and how many deliveries we made and all of that. I will tell you the best thing is seeing somebody receive the food and knowing that that might be the only thing that person has to eat that day.
yeah,
And that people at a bagel shop cared enough to save that bagel, right? And a volunteer cared enough to go pick it up and bring it to an agency that's supporting hunger relief. And then that agency made sure that that person who needed it that day got it. That feels so good.
yeah, because you get to see that from the A to the Z.
Yes.
So
Yes. I like to say that my superpower is that I get to feed thousands of people every day.
yes, very cool statement too. Yeah. So I'm very excited you've been on. We've got. I think this is very cool.
Oh, thank you. Uh-oh. I think yours, it's lost its handle.
Oh, there's a handle to it.
Oops. This is our Bagel Rescue fan.
Oh, I didn't know. I thought it was
Yes.
a little frisbee.
Oh, or yours is a Frisbee.
Yeah.
I'll give you one with a handle.
I think a frisbee. Yours is a handle. Yeah, pretty cool.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me.
Warren, thanks for being on the show. We appreciate you sharing all this great news.
Thank you.
And please tune in again to DeKalb Talks Tourism.